Hello again, friends. Welcome to part 2 of metal detecting encounters. Yeah, I'm still laid up, and the only reason I'm doing part 2 is part 1 would be way too long. And if you haven't seen part 1 of the metal detecting encounters, right here it is. Go back and check it out if you missed it. But anyway, this is part 2. This is the most mysterious part of my metal detecting encounters. I always loved caving as a young man and done a lot of caving. I wished I had film and footage and pictures of all these caves back 40 years ago when I done a lot of caving. But this is what I've done since I've been metal detecting. I'd come across these old caves. Some of them I can get in, some of them I can't. The ones that I can get in, I'll show them to you. I found some really old dates in these things, buddy. Really old. And I metal detected one of them. And I want to go back and do it again. And I've got a good friend of mine, had a metal detecting channel. And he helped me out. I even lost my camera in one. And he helped me out and went down in there and got it. And we explored it a little bit. And there's one cave that is so mysterious that it's just a vertical drop, 50 to 70 foot straight down to get in it. And I know I'll never get in it in my lifetime. But I'll show it to you. I dropped the camera down in it. So, again, I'm laid up, and I thank you all of you for your prayers and supporting this channel while I've been laid up. But anyway, I'm going to share with you these mysterious caves of metal detecting. Now, I explore these old woods, metal detecting, and I get in these rocks. These ridges are just full of rocks. These old ridges are just honeycombed with caves. I know it. I've seen so many sinkholes and little caves, and I'll share some of them with you. And you can see some of the terrain. I find these and like to go to them in the wintertime. There's just so much country in here. And I find places like this. Now, the old farmer told me that this right here was one of the biggest caves in this ridge. But he's got it covered up with metal because at one time to keep the cattle from falling in them and stuff like that. And he would rather I not uncover it. So I wouldn't fool with this one. But he said this one was a big one. That's what he's been told over the years. I would like to go in that one. A lot of country here. And I come across sinkholes that's not really caves. They are caves, but there's no opening to them. Just big old sinkholes in the ground. You gotta watch you don't fall in them. These old big rock ledges I run into metal detecting, it's just so awesome. The camera don't do it justice. Here's one. Looks like a cave, but it don't really go nowhere. It goes so far and it just ends. Just a crack in the rocks. But it's so amazing to see this stuff. What's history's happened here. Here's another part of a cave that a farmer had covered up. I dropped a rock down in here, and it seems like it takes 4 or 5 seconds before it hits anything. So no wonder you don't want no cattle to fall down in that. You'd never find them. You'd never be able to get them out, that's for sure. Just in these old ridges. I even found one here that really amazed me. I looked down in here, sinkhole, and there sat a folding metal chair in the bottom of it, 10 foot down. What in the world's it doing down in there, and what's the purpose of it? You can see it probably goes off back in there. I didn't get down in this one by myself. Afraid I couldn't get out. But man, what a mystery. Now here's the first cave I'll show you. I don't want to show the location or the name of these caves. The farmer wanted me to promise that I wouldn't do this to keep him from being aggravated and people trying to trespass on his land. So he gave me permission to go in these. And this was the easiest one to get in. You can walk right down into it. And it's got some passages goes off to the side, but it's not a really, really big cave. It go 100 foot here and 100 foot there. That's about it. And I'm down in it here, looking back towards the outside. Me and my son went this. This is when I first started metal detecting. This has been 4 or 5 years ago. And down in the bottom of it, looked like people over the years has had a campfire in here. All kinds of old nails and woods, I find, where they'd burnt. Here's the video for it. And there's the old campfire. I don't know how they could stand the smoke in here, no ventilation. But I'd say the Native Americans used it many a time. That's looking back out. We're looking all around this. Here we found all kinds of targets, a lot of trash, I'd say. I'm trying to weed it out, discrimination. Where was that at? Right there, it says a dime, quarter. We're gonna dig that up, see what we got here. Don't know how long these campfires have been here, probably teenagers over the years, but they dates back to the 1800s. Who knows what's in here? Pull tabs, nails. Can't go far, it's solid rock. Something little. Found a bunch of nails in here. Old square-headed nails. Old nails. Whatever it is, we got it out of the hole, but I don't see no. There it is.
Mm-hmm. Nail?
Don't know. Now here's one of many that we found. Old square-headed nails from the old days. Old nail, probably rusty head on it. Okay, false alarm. But we move on into this cave. The most fascinating thing to me is all this old markings on the walls. All kinds of old dates. Look here. 1857. That's an old date. Old date. I didn't see no Native American markings or symbols anywhere. But who knows, they may be here, just covered up. Don't care much about this graffiti, but these old dates amaze me. There's an 89 or an 87, I can't really tell. It says 88 right below it. Probably kids and young people back in the old days. And yes, there's a modern date. I've seen plenty of them. Here's another old date. $1901. That's an old one. $1902. can't make that one out. Is that a 1898? There's an 1856 again. And yeah, just old dates everywhere. But here back in another part of the cave, we went back in there. It's just undisturbed. Look at the dates on this one. 1881. And I know the people's descendants that made these markings. But this is looking out. As we head out of here, this is a nice cave. I want to metal detect it again with my more modern and more experienced equipment and more modern detectors. It's just so much history in here. I know there's stuff in here. So I'll try to get back here when I can. Now this second cave I'm going to show you is the most mysterious and most dangerous cave for me, I think. And I accidentally found it one day metal detecting in these old ridges. This is cave number 2 that I'll show you. And it's got a weird place above it. It's got a marker tree here. Looks like an old Indian marker tree, but it's not made by Indians. It can't be no more than 20, 30 years old, maybe 40. An old maple tree. But look at the shape of it. Why is it that way? That's weird, ain't it? Right above the entrance. And this entrance is dangerous. About 6 foot circumference here, or diameter. Now I made a little old camera here to get in it, because I knowed I couldn't get in it. So I had a GoPro. And I took it and mounted it on a 2x4 like this, with some high intensity LED lights. And behind it, I took some welding rods and knocked the flux off of them and bent them to protect the flashlight. And put an eye of it on top to drop it down in there. And it worked out pretty good. The only thing about this setup is you can't help it from spinning around and around on the cable or rope that you drop it in. But it worked out great. Here I'm dropping it in over that marker tree. I get it all untangled here, down in between these rocks. And I dropped it down to what I measured at about 65 to 70 foot of cable, rope. A long way down there. And I'm filming on the way down. But I hang on to this tree. I wouldn't want to fall into that, that's for sure. And when I get down in here and this camera on, here's the pictures. Just a few of them of this video I'll show you. It's spinning around and around. But that'll make anybody dizzy. So here's the pictures that I stopped. Here it is on the bottom, looking up. Here's a picture looking straight up, about 70 foot. Now that's a long drop if you fell down in that hole. Long drop. And I know I'll never do it. I'll never climb down in here, but look at the pictures that it showed. That I stopped on the frames. What does that look like to you? Looks like an old Indian head to me. That's what it looks like. Here's some of the other pictures off through there. Old stalactites, stalagmites. Beautiful formations in there. All kinds of old formations. Off to the side, as this thing spins, I'll stop it and snapshot it. Now here's a weird one. What does that look like? Is it my imagination? Or is the light playing tricks on my eyes or the shadows? But they didn't name this cave for nothing. Is that a demon's head? The devil? Who knows? But there's a picture that's really weird. That's a rock formation too. But I come up out there, and you have to watch, get my camera hung. These rock ledges and cracks. Back in the real world again. This is the best I can tell from the pictures of what this cave was like. It's a vertical drop, and I'll never get in it. But here's some of the videos that I made about it. I made a couple of videos on this, so you can go back and watch them. And I know I'll never get in there in my lifetime. I'm too old, and my body is not prepared for that kind of stuff. That is rappelling only. So there you go. There's cave number 2, the most mysterious. Well, there's another old vertical cave on this ridge. It's a vertical cave, but not near as dangerous as the one cave 2 was. And it's got 2 or 3 vertical drops in here. And this is a rough one here, but it don't have no pretty formations in it, what we seen with the camera and with the bare eye. Well, I thought I'd just get off here at the edge of it here. It wasn't dangerous right here. Looks like it is, but it's not. And I'd swing that out there and drop it off them drop-offs. And all was going good at first. I'd working it. But it got hung in them rocks down there, and I tried to jerk it loose, and when I did, it come unsnapped. Oh man, there you go. Hundreds of dollars worth of camera gone. And that just broke my heart right there. What am I going to do? I said, I've lost it. And I thought. And I thought I'd call my old buddy up. He's got a metal detector channel too. And we worked in the mines together. He done a lot of construction work in high places. So he come in, he was glad to come and help me. A couple hours, we was back at the place. And we rigged up, and he went down in there. He's a lot younger than I am. So I just secured outside and gave him what he needed. And he rescued the camera. And while we got it, everything's okay. He did a little exploring while he was tied off and checked this other part of the cave while he was down in there. And it had a series of drop-offs in it. So he went down to the first one, and then he managed to get down to the second one and the third one with the camera. I just give him slack, and he worked it. Just got to be safe in these places. And he worked his way to these other little vertical shafts in it and dropped the camera down in. Here he's dropping the camera down to that second shaft, and you can see the edge of the third shaft out there to the side right there. Can't help that camera from spinning. Well, there's a 20-foot drop right there. And he managed to work that camera around to the third drop off the edge. It went down another 20 foot to the bottom. And this is what the camera captured. And it looked like it had places goes off to the side here and there with the camera. And here's some of the pictures of the formations. Not nearly as mysterious as the other cave. But it had passages in it, drop-offs. It's a dangerous cave too. You can see some of the formations. The best I could tell, this cave was kind of like this. You come in from the top at a pretty steep angle, drop off, and then 2 or 3 drop-offs down to the bottom. But you can see this in a video if you want to look it up on the playlist of metal detecting. But me and him worked together good. We'd worked in the mines together for a few years. And he's got his own channel too, Backwoods Digger. You can check him out. He's a good Christian friend. Well, this next cave I've got with my buddy Slim here again. This cave is Cave 4. This is a virgin cave. Never had an entrance to the outside before. And a friend of mine just outside of Tazewell had a farm. And a few years ago when we checked this out, it come some heavy rains and filled this little holler up here, this little bowl here where this pond is, plumb up. And what he said, what happened then, it cut itself a path into the ground and opened up a cave system that didn't nobody know was there. And the thing about it is, you could see it right here. Thing about it is, they said 80 years ago, there used to be a dump here, a dump site, and they cleaned it up. But you can see here what it opened up to the outside. Never been opened up before. I guess the pressure of the water created a little hole and it just grew from there, and you could see it. But they said there used to be a dump here, and they cleaned it up and covered it up mostly and made a farm out of it. But there's a lot of stuff laying here. I checked it out here, see what me and Slim needed to get back down in there. Yep, had to have a rope to get down in it right off the bat. Big drop off. And you can see right here, the force of the water washed all that stuff down in there. A lot of trash. What can I do to help you now? I'll let you walk it out. Big old hole. You may not go nowhere, bud. And the force of that water had cut its way through this limestone crack into a void, into a cave system that nobody knows was there.
That's cool.
What?
There's a stick sticking in that rock and that water's running out on the top of it.
This is one big old room right off the bat. We had to look for scaling the top down. We had to be careful. Although Slim, it did go somewhere. He started traveling it out, crawling it down through there. You couldn't walk it. This was on your hands and knees. And he said it just went on and on. And he'd find little things along the way. Here's his most prized possession, an old street sign from back in the 20s. Must have come from Tazewell. He loved that sign. Looked like it's made of brass. But he traveled it out here. We spent most of our day here. All kinds of stuff. Where that water, force of that water, washed that old dump site in here. Found all kinds of little things. And I'm just cutting it short here because you want to see this video, you can go back and see it in the playlist. It just goes on and on, he said. It even forked off in a couple of places. I didn't want him to go too far. Not by himself. He found some old, looked like he said lead weights in there from old cars, automobiles. Even windshield wipers, he said. All kinds of stuff. Didn't need no metal detector to find that. That water had washed it all through that cave. Such force of that water. But here's some of the pictures of some of the stuff that he found. Old electric insulator off an old telephone pole. That's an old one, ain't it? Even old railroad spikes. Took some force to wash that far in there, didn't it? Looks like old car leaf springs strap right there. And of course, his most prized possession he found of the day was this old street sign. Dated back in the 20s. And you coming out of there with his camera, you can see where I'm at, 50 foot above him, way up there, my light. That's a big cave system. Right off the bat. Had to crawl back up out of there, climb out of there. I'm just getting too old to do this anymore. 40 years ago, yes. Too old. My buddy can still do it though. And he loves it, being an old miner. But he's a good one, old Slim is. Well, we both head out of here from the big room towards the outside. And outside, we could scrounge around all day out here. Found old insulators out here where they're sticking out of the ground or at washed. I even found one that wasn't broke. Different types too. All kinds of old jars. You just don't see these anymore. Or they've been thrown in a dump 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago. This is an old Woodbury. Must be hand cream, face cream or something, back in the day. And this old sign, it looked like some kind of brass alloy. That was the prize of the day. You could see the little tip on it where it stood on a pole. Well, there you go. If you like these little videos of these caves, right here's the one for this one. You can look back in the metal detecting playlist and you'll find this. There's so much more of it. But I just want to share with you these little caves. And I'd like to say one more thing. Please, these caves are dangerous. If you don't know what you're doing, do not go in them. And please do not go in them by yourself, because anything could happen and there you'll be. You've got to have somebody with you and let somebody know where you're at all times. So there you go. Well, there you have it. There's some mysterious caves. And there's caves all in these East Tennessee mountains and ridges, all over the place. I run across a bunch of them. Like I said, I wished I'd had some in my younger days. They would just amaze you, the places I've been and crawled in. Of course, being an old coal miner all my life, it wasn't nothing going in a cave. But them days is gone. You have to have somebody with you. Be safe. These things are dangerous. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little video. This has been between part 1 and part 2. This is just my experience in the last 4 or 5 years of just metal detecting, exploring the old countryside in the caves of East Tennessee. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. God bless, and I'll see you next time.